Hey everybody, welcome back. I figured I might as well put the deck out there that I've been playing in both paper and I've been playing on Arena for a couple of weeks now. I really like the deck, and it just wins out of nowhere. One of the strongest decks I think that is currently out there as things start to change and the metagame starts to evolve a little bit. So if you watch the stream or you watch if you watch my stream or you watch the stream at Liberty, you'll see the last couple of FNMs I played this. We did not have one the last one, it kind of stinks because I didn't get a chance to play it again before rotating into another deck. But I guess we'll jump right into it, and this is Temur Clover. So Temur Clover, Temur Adventures. It is great. I guess first off, it's 4 Edgewing Keepers, 4 Lucky Clovers, doubling down on a lot of things that you do. So drawing some extra cards, playing some extra copies of spells, and hopefully winning the game. Clover is not necessarily essential, but it's great, and it goes a very long way in helping you to do extra things throughout the deck or find extra pieces that you need as the game goes on to be able to win in a more suitable fashion than just attacking with a 5/5. I know that seems really bad. So, for as far as the adventure package goes, we have 4 Fae of Wishes, 4 Brazen Borrower, 4 Bonecrusher Giant, 4 Lovestruck Beast, and 4 Beanstalk Giant. That's a lot. So, playsets of everything seem very odd, but are great. You want to draw as many adventure spells as possible. You want to put Edgewall Innkeepers and Lucky Clovers onto the battlefield to make sure that you're doing and drawing and keep your hand full and keep going so that you're not ever down to 0 cards, and then not having anything to do, draw a land and play it, and then pass the turn. It feels really, really bad with this deck because you're not advancing your board state. It needs a lot of mana, and that can be really easy, or it can be extremely hard. There's not really a middle point between the two. So if you have the good draws, you're going to have a lot of mana. As long as you draw the right pieces, then you should win the game, and it shouldn't be that big a deal. If you're missing out on things like Lucky Clovers and you're not drawing Beanstalk Giants, then you're going to sit down in the 3, 4, potentially 5 mana range, and you can't actually do a lot with that because everything... You need to play multiple spells in one turn, and often you need to play 3 and 4 spells in one turn. So after that, we have, we'll get back to that. We have three Escape to the Wilds. The reason we have 3 Escape to the Wilds is there's 1 Escape to the Wilds in the sideboard so that you could go grab the Escape to the Wilds with a Fae of Wishes. Then you have 1 Great Henge, 1 Growth Spiral. Okay, these are basically the 2 flex spots in this deck. Everything else has remained virtually the same for every other version of this deck. And the reason being, Growth Spiral gets you a little bit more with land, like the land, drawing the extra card, filtering through something. If you happen to scry, something's on top, you want to grab that thing, whatever it be. The Great Henge is repeatable in the same way to be able to draw you the card when you play a creature. It gains you a little bit of life. It can actually win the game almost by itself against mono red. The downside to both of these, Growth Spiral. If you draw a card and you're not drawing lands, it's really bad. There's only 1 copy. It's not like you have 4 where you're just like, yep, I'll be able to keep going with this and keep going with this. Nope, you have the 1. So it's often when you draw that 1, it's kind of in an oddball situation. You don't really want it. Having that 1 early game is great. Doesn't often happen, though. The other does it, the Great Henge. The thing costs a ridiculous amount of mana. You can see often that the earliest that you're going to cast a Great Henge is going to be on turn 4. And that is because you're casting a Lovestruck Beast on turn 3, not using the adventure side of it, because maybe you've already used it. So if you go like turn 1, Heart's Desire, turn 2, Lucky Clover, turn 3, Lovestruck Beast, you've already missed out on the extra 1/1, but you're able to put the Great Henge into play for 4 mana. So at that point, you could actually go the Great Henge and then play something else that costs you 2 green. Turns out there's not a whole lot in the deck that costs you 2 green. At that point, you really only got Edgewall Innkeepers that you can cast. not really doing what you want it to do. But 4 is, I believe, the earliest that it could happen, because it's, I guess, turn 3. Because if you went turn 2, Growth Spiral, put you to 3. No, still doesn't matter, because then turn 3 you need to have this to play, and then turn 4 you still be playing this. So yeah, turn 4. I've seen different lists that have played 2 Growth Spirals instead of playing a Great Henge and a Growth Spiral. I have also seen lists the opposite way, which I feel is the absolute... I feel like that's the wrong thing to do. I don't think you want 2 Great Henge in the deck. Drawing one of them too early is really bad. And it just gets stuck in your hand and you cannot do anything with it. And it's another card that, like, say, even the Growth Spiral, if you draw both of these, not wanting both Great Henges, it's... I don't know. Your choice. I really think you should not play 2 Great Henge, though. I don't think anybody thinks you should. So, mana base is pretty straightforward. So, 4 islands, 2 mountains, 6 forests. And then, kind of a wish-wash here. You got 3 Steam Vents and a Temple of Epiphany. 4 Stomping Grounds, 2 Temple of Abandon. And 4 Breeding Pool and a Temple of Mystery. You'll notice that I was playing in the last FNM. I was playing 2 Fable Passage. Don't play Fable Passage. That hurt me a lot. The reason that I was playing 2 Fable Passage was that I took 2 cards out of my deck. I could not remember what the 2 cards were, and I didn't have time to go find them. And I was like, I think they're Fable Passage. Let me grab them. I got to FNM and realized there was 0 Fable Passage in the list. Turns out I was playing the deck with just 2 Brazen Borrowers. Not a good feeling. Brazen Borrower does a ton for the deck. I believe there are people that... I shouldn't say I believe. I know there are people that feel Brazen Borrower is the weakest link out of all the adventure cards in this deck. But it can buy you time as well as close out the game. So after that, what we get to... So you have 1 card in Fae of Wishes. That everybody knows we have a wish board. And you'll notice on this, there are a lot of 1-ofs. There's 2 more down here that you can't see that I will scroll to. So we have 1 Mystic Repeal, a Shadow Spear, 2 Aether Gust, a Disdainful Stroke, a Negate, a Fling, a Return to Nature, a Dalmor's Ambush, a Sorcerer's Spyglass, a Pulse of Marasa, 1 Storm's Wrath, 1 Once in Future, 1 Escape to the Wilds, and then 1 Expansion Explosion. The thing that... So with the first week that I played this, I did not realize the interaction between Fling and Expansion Explosion. Yes, it works. No, you don't have to sacrifice a second creature. The reason is, Fling says as additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature. Fling deals damage equal to sacrifice creature's power to any target. So once you pay all of the costs for Fling, it then goes onto the stack with a value. If you have a 10/10 Beanstalk Giant, Fling that has a value of 10 and is going to deal 10 damage. So with Fling on the stack, after you paid all the costs and you sacrifice that creature, you then get a chance to Expansion. Expansion says, copy target instant or sorcery spell with converted mana cost 4 or less. You may choose new targets. It does not say, copy that spell and you may cast it for free. If it said you may cast that spell, then you would be paying the additional cost to cast it, even though you get to cast it for free. And don't quote me on that one, but the reason, I guess, the key thing to not get hung up for is the fact that it just copies the spell. So it actually just puts another copy of Fling onto the stack for whatever that value was. So if you sacrifice the 10/10's Beanstalk Giant, it's putting another copy of Fling with a value of 10 onto the stack. You can choose a different target or just their face. So Fling, Expansion, Explosion, great combination. Now the thing that, if you watched week 1 when I played again, that played the mirror against Buzzy, he said, it's absolutely ridiculous. You can do it once and future. So, one thing that you can do with once and future is that you can Fling, play Expansion, Explosion. If something happens, you can let the expansion resolve, play once and future, because it's an instant, buy back the expansion and some other card, and expansion the Fling again. So there's actually a point where in one game, I believe it was in week 2, where I set up Fling, Expansion, Explosion, once in future. and then my opponent started gaining a bunch of life, it was Fling, Expansion, Explosion. My opponent started gaining a bunch of life, and I had to go for the Once in Future and try to get it. I ended up seeing and having a different line to be able to win and beat them, but I was working towards the setup of Fling, Expansion, Explosion, and then end of their turn, buy back with Once in Future, and then Fling, Expansion, Explosion again with a second Beanstalk Giant if I needed to. The deck is super resilient. It has a lot of tools, and a lot of these are just playing Shadow Spear. Absolutely great in the red matchup. A game winner by itself. Again, the Great Henge, almost a game winner by itself. Storm's Wrath, being able to wipe the board. There are a lot of things that you can change. Pulse of Marasa, I don't use it I don't use it that often. I do use it though. Sorcerer's Spyglass, just good all-around removal for your Dream Trawlers. Yeah, I said that first. Andrew Teferis. Dalmri's Ambush, really good for being able to just get a big creature that's potentially blocking the way out of the way. Putting an additional counter onto something doesn't hurt either, especially if you're going to fling it. So, setting up Disdainful Stroke and Negate. Some people were wanting to have 2 negates instead of Disdainful Strokes. I like Disdainful Stroke plus Negate. If you can grab both of these with the same Fae, then you're pretty well set up to cover everything that anybody can play. Negate doesn't counter things like, say, Dream Trawler, but the Disdainful Stroke will help that. You'll catch that. If they counter back, then you can counter back with a Negate, assuming that it's not a Dominus Veto. But that being said, I just really wanted to quickly go over what I've been playing in the deck that I think will be my standard deck for a minute now, until something else piques my interest, I guess. Alright, everybody, I thank you for watching, and I hope everybody stays safe, and we'll see you next time.